and the front wheel left the pavement. Hot desert wind swept back his hair and stole the air from his lungs. Heart thumping, adrenaline surging, he hit 60, then 80. Behind him a siren screamed, and blue lights flashed. Ahead, the empty Arizona sky beckoned him on, the grin still plastered across his face. There was nothing like it. The thrill, the excitement, the momentary escape from hungry nights in the roach-infested government housing complex he called home. This was living. And then it wasn't. He saw the intersection and the blazing red light only half a mile ahead and didn't plan to slow. It was a quiet part of town, so far removed from the outskirts as to barely be counted as Phoenix Metro. This light was automatic, switching from red to green on a timer. There might not even be a passing car. But there was, and not just a car, a semi-truck, dragging a long flatbed, rolling across the intersection. The boy grabbed the clutch and hit the brake. Tires screamed and the bike shook. The truck barely seemed to move, still crawling at the pace of a snail. The intersection flashed closer as the bike dropped back into double-digit speeds but still hurtled on. Panic overtook his mind. He calculated the shrinking distance and knew he'd never stop in time. If he missed the truck, he'd hit the trailer, or worse still, the bike would slide beneath while he was decapitated by the trailer's edge. He saw it all in a microsecond, and he made a decision. Rolling left, he shot his leg up toward the handlebar and dumped the bike on its side. Sparks exploded as metal met asphalt, and his body left the Ducati. That same asphalt tore into his elbows and arms, ripping at jeans and the shoplifted leather jacket he wore. He wrapped both arms instinctively around his head and kept rolling. The bike spun into the darkness and slammed into the truck. Stars and asphalt alternated as he continued to tumble. And then he hit the ditch. Dry desert dust and small cacti. It was a swirling mess of speed and pain, wrapping around his body and smashing into his face. Then it was simply over. He lay on his back in the ditch, face up, breathing hard, and still grinning. Boots pounded the pavement, and the truck driver called to him. The cop car slid to a stop at the edge of the road, blue lights still flashing but the siren off. In a second, both the cop and the driver were on top of him. No time to run. Not even a prayer of escape. The boy didn't care. "Are you all right?" the trucker shouted. "Geez, son, didn't you see the light?" The boy sat up with a pain-filled grunt. He didn't even look for the Ducati. That bike was history. He just looked to the cop. Hard lines, framed cold eyes, the officer's right hand resting on his gun. There was no panic in that face, no urgency or particular concern, only resigned frustration. The boy's grin faded, and nausea flooded his stomach. The cop reached for his cuffs. "Well, Mason, I finally got you." 2. 12 years later. I sat next to the diner window and watched the kid steal my truck. He began at the driver's door, where a rotten window gasket left ample room to slip a lockout tool through. A quick manipulation of the implement and the heavy door swung open. I took a bite of my burger and wondered how many kids these days knew how to use a lockout tool. Probably not many, which meant this kid was either smart or else associated with an old-school car booster, and that meant he probably knew how to hotwire the truck also. I bet myself he could and ordered a milkshake. The kid tossed the lockout tool into the passenger seat and clambered into my '67 GMC. He shut the door, and even through the diner window I heard the heavy metal thunk of steel on steel, like a tank hatch slamming closed. They don't make 'em like that anymore. The kid went to work on the ignition, and I went to work on the milkshake. The ignition wasn't mounted on the steering column like modern cars. Instead, it was built into the dash beneath the radio. The wires were inaccessible unless the kid ducked completely beneath the dash, and to do that, he'd need to leave the truck and lean in from the side. But if he was smart, he wouldn't bother, because the truck was over 50 years old and the ignition was original, which meant the tumblers inside the keyhole were worn to the point of compliance with a manipulation as crude as a screwdriver. I knew that because I once lost the keys and used